All right, fellas, as you can see, we're got a little detour going on here. I noticed a couple of bubbles here on the bottom side, so I tried to pick at it a little bit, and then I found when I was on the inside, this too. That's up in the the cabin area where typically where these rust. That's where I found on the LTD, and I had put Rust-Oleum on here before when I had it apart the first time. After I cleaned a pound of leaves out of the in here, and but I didn't like do the Pour 15 like I did on the LTD. I think it wouldn't have really done anything because it really needs to be cleaned out really good because you got several layers of metal that are overlapping, and then when the rain comes through the cowl there and it kind of collects in here because there's nowhere for it to go. There's a little bitty hole right here, but right behind the hole is a bunch of metal that's overlapped. So it tends to collect up under here, and this thing wasn't even touching down here. The Ford used a gray primer that seems to hold up fairly decent, but not for like a really long time, because you can see when I was trying to clean the metal off, there's still some there. But it just, when the water sits there and it's got dirt in it and leaves and whatnot, it just kind of, it ain't got nowhere to go. So it starts rusting. Once it gets into the metal, then it just kind of it gets worse from there. And this is a Florida car too, so I can imagine cars from up north how they're going to be. So really recommend when you first get a car, unless you know it's been garage kept its entire existence, is to get in here and clean this out. It'll save you some trouble in the long run. And under here, you can see, without getting too much glare, I know that light inside, but up under there you might be able to see how the metal overlaps and it starts to bubble up. I sprayed Ospo on there the other night, so it's still a little damp, and I did weld that hole, some fine welding. It's pretty hard to weld. I mean, I'm not a great welder to begin with, but you know, it's all rusted out, so the metal's really thin, so all I can do is just kind of keep hitting it and get a little buildup on it, and then once I'll put some Ospo on that, or Pour 15, and then do the same in here once I get all this taken care of. So there's a little drain hole that comes around the backside right there, and then like I said, that one, they really needed a little bigger one, you know, maybe like an oblong thing, so it can kind of maybe some leaves and junk can fall out. You can't go any further back with it because then you're in the cabin, so it's just kind of a boogered up design. So I ended up having to cut the whole part of this front part of the chassis off of it, or body, whatever. What I'm going to do is try to weld these shut, and then I'll treat those. And then in here, you can see from the factory how they didn't even they just had gaps there in the sealant. And I really doubt that the sealant has shrunk that much. I think they just missed it. I don't know if this car was built on a Monday or Friday afternoon. Oops. But and then right here around that hole is where the there's like a wire, and then I think a vacuum hose, if I remember right, for the cruise control. So I usually run the power wire, run it through the inside of the car and run the power wire out to that instead of running it along the bottom of the car. So here, I'll try to weld that up as best I can, and then put some Ospo and Pour 15 in them holes, and then put some sealant on it. And it goes all the way down here. I don't know if you can see. Maybe I can move this light a little bit. What you see down here, let me get everything situated here. You can see that where that gap is in the sealant, that goes right to the outside. So it's just, I might have to try to squish that metal back together and squeeze some sealant in that hole. But that's one of the other places where the water was coming in at. And haven't really done anything inside the interior. I got all the wiring harness laid out. I just got to figure out which wires I need to pull off of it. And then the same with the EFI harness that comes out here to the front. So I think that's what I'm going to do, is go inside and watch a little playoff football, seeing how the Packers aren't in it, and get back on this tomorrow. So appreciate y'all. We'll see you in the next clip. What's up, fellas? So this is the harness, the EEC harness for the Trooper car. I've got the Pro-M Duo wired in. That's to run 2 mass air meters. But I got all the wiring kind of set up the way I like it. It'll be a lot neater. I got rid of all of that stuff up there. That was the tab and TAD solenoids and the air conditioning, the AC relay, all that stuff that I wouldn't be needing. So this is kind of how it's going to be set up in the car. This will get mounted to the firewall by the map sensor behind the salt and pepper shakers. Then I'll have this line run over to that side and this line run to the mass air meter on that side. Once I get everything in the car, then I'll wire these in for the slot meters. But I don't know how long it's going to be right now, and I didn't want to have a lot of excess wiring, so I'll wait for that part until I get to it. Like I said, once everything's in the car. And I'll still keep this. This is to run either a slot meter or a Pro-M meter on a single one if I want to. And of course I can still run speed density too. So that's how that's working out. I've got the other harness in the house in the Florida room spread out on the floor like I did this one. I did this one, what was it, Saturday night when the Jaguars played the Chargers and the Chargers collapsed. So I had this all spread out on the floor, cutting stuff and tying it together. The wife was not amused, but I cleaned up after myself. So now I'm going to do the same tonight when the Buccaneers play the Cowboys. We'll see how that one goes. And I'll throw this all up tonight and get it on the interwebs. So that's all that's going on right now is wiring and some of the under dash stuff. All right, appreciate y'all. Later.